Any import in VelArchitect must be done on a cleaned up database, unless other is not specified by a well planner. So before doing that, ensure that all required data is backed up, otherwise it will be completely lost. So to backup database, you can use backup database option here. In my case, all required data is stored already, so I don't need to do another backup. So I would like to delete my database right now. And when database is clear, import can begin. When you are importing a file, just ensure that you select correct file. And wait until importing is over. So when the import has finished, now we have to check, we have to run some necessary checks for correct database setup. So in this case, I know that the well is to be drilled from slot number 7. And as I can see, that definitive revision is B.0, and it needs to be double checked with company representative that if I'm using the latest revision. So let's take a closer look into planned well path. So before starting drilling, we have to understand directional objectives of each run. DD need to know in advance how much steering is required over the run and assess if proposed BHA configuration suits this application. Positional Uncertainty Tab contains survey program and, of course, must match actual BHA on each interval. So hole encasing tab must match actual bead sizes that are going to be used on each section as well. So if any doubts or concern, so they must be immediately communicated to applications engineer. And also there is a number of reports which must be sent back to a well planner in order to confirm correct database setup. So they include planned well path report. You see the calculation options for planned well path report. Normally you will use HTML or CSV extension. Also, clearance summary report. So you calculate clearance summary report, you save it and send to a well planner. So this summary here has only the status of clearance calculation. So as we can see here, all the ratios are above threshold value 1, which means that it is safe to drill the well. And the last report from the planned well path must be offset well approval report. This is just to confirm with well planner that all the offset wells are correctly uploaded. And here we can see the list of offset wells. So again, these 3 reports must be saved and sent to a well planner. So also in this email, DD must also state that client representative has confirmed that the rig is over the correct slot and slot coordinates agree with those in VelArchitect. So if I'm working on slot number 7, so these coordinates should match actual coordinates of the slot. And here at the facility setup on the slots tab, you can see the real physical layout of the facility. So you can physically count number of wellheads of for wells being drilled before this slot, and you can actually confirm that the slot number 7 is actually 7th in a row. Another thing that need to be sent to a well planner is a couple of print screens from your actual well pass. So this is a print screen of a well pass tab, just to confirm the timing point, and the print screen of a clearance tab. So in order to identify if active monitoring is required, we need to run a clearance calculation with risk assessment rule applied. So once report was calculated, I scroll down to the summary, and from summary I can see that there are 2 wells failing this rule. So by using this hyperlink, I can actually check the interval for each offset well which requires active monitoring. So say in this case, active monitoring is required from the surface to 190, and in this case active monitoring required from surface to 180. But ensure that there are no more intervals which require monitoring, as this summary shows you only minimum ratio, which doesn't necessarily mean that there are more there are more intervals which will require active monitoring. So in order to do so, you just have to scroll down to offsets of your concern. Offset 1, no monitoring required, and offset 2. No monitoring required as well. So from this report I know that active monitoring will be required only from the surface to 190. Now we need to set up actual well paths for active monitoring. So first of all, we have to check offset well list. And of course, this offset well list should match offset well list for the planned well path. So DD must observe surrounding area for evidence of nearby wells that are not in the offset well list. Hole and casing dimensions for actual well bore must be checked and edited if necessary. So in this tab, as you can see, there are no open hole and casing diameters. That means that if I continue just like that, my clearance calculations will be invalidated. So for monitoring while drilling, just filling open hole diameter will be enough. So now we can go inside the actual well path. So here on the well path tab, we need to specify bit offset for projection to bit. So right now it doesn't matter which projection method you are using. This is only to specify projection to bit distance. In this case, from my BHA sketch, I know that the distance will be 18.83. So for active monitoring, I need to limit my look ahead distance to 30 meters or 1 stand. So this method will be adjusted according to my steering intention for the next stand, And for alternate rule, I need to choose Baker-Hughes stop drilling non-HSE risk. So now drilling can begin. So in order to post survey, I have to have a log here. Otherwise, there's just no place to store a survey. So I would just check if my well planner had created a survey log already. And if you have a list here, so now you just have to select correct survey log for your application. Like in my case, I know this is survey log I'm looking for. So when you're inside survey log, you want to check that the tool type and position uncertainty model, they correspond to your survey program and plan well path and correspond to your actual BHA. So now I can post a survey. So once survey is typed inside the survey log, I just save log to database and click exit button. So projection to bid and clearance will be calculated automatically. But of course, both projection to bid and clearance should reflect your actual steering and your intention for steering performance for the next stand. So in this case, I know that I was following the plan, so my projection to bid should be changed accordingly. So I expect 0.5 of inclination and 337 degrees of azimuth at the bottom of the hole. And for clearance, I expect 1.5 and again 337 degrees of azimuth as an outcome of my next stand. So in this case, there is a warning due to small clearance. However, it is still safe to drill ahead. So now another stand was drilled and survey posted. I can post a survey just in a well pass points tab, so there is no need to open survey log each time. I can just highlight one particular line and use this option here. Also, I don't want this auto append option, so I just switch it off. So now I post a survey. And update my projection to bid and look ahead accordingly. So now on a clearance tab, I can see that the status is warning. That means that my separation ratio is close to 1. However, I still stick to plan, and from distance from plan, I can see that I'm 0.31 meters just ahead of plan, and I just need to work on my inclination. So right now my azimuth is somewhat so right now my azimuth is good, and I have to focus on my inclination. So in this case, no major actions are required. It's still safe to drill a stand, and I'm pretty sure that I will catch up with the plan. So the situation is actually looking very good. And we can continue drilling and posting surveys. Once monitoring interval was passed, set up your clearance tab for passive monitoring and change your look ahead distance and alternate rule accordingly. So in this case I have to switch to Baker Hughes risk assessment required rule and to set my look ahead distance for 100 meters. And there are no offset well paths failing this setup, so it's safe to drill ahead. Also, my distance from plan showing that at my last survey point and at the beat I'm a little bit ahead, but that's manageable, so I can resume drilling. Now section was successfully drilled to plan TD. In this case it was 912 meters. So it was locked and casing rung successfully. So now actual information must be entered in actual wellbore hole in casing, and we have to set up our well architect for a next run. In actual well pass, you have to change your bit offset accordingly. In my case it will be 9 meters 0.67, and if your survey tool is different from the one you used in the previous run, so you have to add another survey log. In this survey log I have to check my tool type and positional uncertainty model as well. So now I can start posting surveys. Once I've posted a survey in the survey log and save it to database, so a new survey log will appear in the log list, and the bit projection to bit calculation and a clearance calculation will take place automatically. So for clearance I still have passive mode. So we drill ahead until we come across with this considerable deviation from the plan. As you can see on the distance from plan tab, at the last survey point, at the beat and at the look ahead, so the distance of deviation is greater than 10 meters. So in this situation, projection ahead might be required and requested. So in order to create projection ahead, we have to first save all our surveys to database, and then to create a project ahead. When projection ahead is open, so you have to specify that you're working in advanced mode. If you need to name it something sensible, you can do it here. And when opening the projection tab, you need to ensure that your tie-on and projection to bit are updated. So if they are not updated, you could use this update type point to current TD of path. So now everything is set up, so I can produce a projection head. So in order to do this, I would like to use a return to plan option. So this is a return to plan option. It's showing me associated plan, which is exactly one I try to follow, and I have two options here. This is when you try to get back on plan in some certain point, and this is option when you try to get back on plan with some certain dogleg severity. So now, in order to use either of them, I have to build a sensible profile and then to connect my current position with the desired one. So normally, three-dimensional S profile will always work. So first I choose the three-dimensional S-shape profile from this 3D profile tab, and then with my cursor somewhere on the last line, I would like to specify which option I'm using. So in this case, I would like to use one dogleg severity and just use it on the plan. That's it. That means that roughly in 200 meters, while steering with 1 degree per 10 meters of dogleg severity, I will return on plan. So just in case, if it's necessary to maintain your trajectory a little bit above the plan, so this do not use plan option can be used. So that makes your coordinates editable, and maybe you can specify some distance above the plan or below the plan, or to the left or to the right, depending on circumstances. Like in this case, say it will be 1802, and will architect will suggest you dogleg severities in order to connect the tie-on with the last line in this projection. So now it's up to you, either you're okay with these values or not. But anyway, as you can see, the number is the increment is negligible. So now for collision risk assessment, we need to check that positional uncertainty model and hull and casing tab, they contain correct data. And again, run assessment, run clearance report with risk assessment required rule applied. So now I go to my positional uncertainty. I just ensure that my tool type and positional uncertainty model, they are corresponding to the tool I'm using. And I go to hull and casing. I ensure that this is exactly the diameter I'm drilling and the interval is correct. So now I want also to check my offsets. So offsets are here. Yeah, perfect. So now I'm just saving it to database and creating this clearance report. So I can go for full clearance report, or I can open Outputs Launcher, which will allow me to do some editing. So in this case, I just need a quick check, and I would like to run full clearance report. So this clearance report, when scrolling to summary, is showing that there is no risk of drilling, and there is only one offset well failing, but that's exactly the well that I'm drilling, so it's supposed to fail. So it's safe to proceed. And as you can see from these ratios, monitoring is not longer required. But if you are adopting, so you can just generate another report. Go Outputs, open Output Launcher, clearance report, and apply this assessment required rule. So once report is generated, I scroll down to summary, and again I can see that only one well is failing, and that's exactly the well that I'm drilling. So if it becomes a little bit annoying, so we can just open the offset well list for this particular projection and remove our actual well path. So now I just can save it to database again, and I can follow this projection. So in my actual well path here, what I can do is switch between fulfilled plan and active projection. So now you see that active projection is available for choosing. I choose this one, and now I'm following active projection. And I can switch between these two at any point when required. So now drilling resumes and new surveys were posted. So at this point here, we can see from distance from plan that another deviation occurs, and client requests to get back on plan without exceeding planned dogleg severity. So previous projection can be edited for this purpose. So once it's opened, we would like to clear it. We would like to update it to TD. And now, if my client told me that they wouldn't like to exceed my dogleg severity, which one was planned, so I just would put 1. And so now I just use 1 degree per 10 meters as a dogleg severity with my last row highlighted, and the get back on plan profile will be calculated. So here I still have to ensure that no active monitoring will be required, or it is just safe to proceed. And another option which can be useful in this case is to check with 3D Collision Avoidance. So I go Outputs, and there's 3D Collision Avoidance display feature. So there is interactive analysis tool, and as you can see, all the offsets, they have a good available space between my reference and these offsets. And the only offset well pass that is failing is the well pass that I am actually drilling. Also, if I now open the three-dimensional viewer, unless I'm not crossing with my projection these green cylinders, I am safe. So now I can go back in my actual well pass, and I can continue drilling following my projection. Of course, it needs to be updated from my database. Yes, so now I can follow my active projection, the edited one. Now drilling resumes, and some new surveys were posted. At these depths, Reservoir Navigation Engineer requests changing in inclination to 87.5 at dogleg severity of 0.5 and not longer following the plan. So in order to do this profile correction, and for any other upcoming profile correction, again, projection ahead can be used. So first of all, we save all our surveys to database, and then we can edit our existing projection. As far as we're talking only about inclination change, so there is no need to use three-dimensional profile. In this case, this profile can be just removed, and of course the tie-on and projection to bit must be updated accordingly. So now I can just use one arc, and I would like to specify what's my target inclination and what's my required dogleg severity. So now you can see that not more than 18 meters will be required for me to get from this inclination to this inclination. And the rest of the stand I will be drilling with a tangent. So now this is my plan for the next stand. Now projection can be saved to database and closed. Drilling resumed until target reservoir penetration was confirmed, and now planned Tvd change is requested by a customer. So the request is as follows. We have to steer at 1 dogleg severity and set Tvd SS for the TD being 2639. So in order to do this profile correction, again, projection ahead can be used. So as always, I just remove the previous profile. I update my tie-on and projection to bit. And now I have to identify what it will take me to connect the current position with the TD. So first of all, we are talking about one curve because change in inclination is required. And secondly, we are connecting it with a straight line as far as we are drilling the lateral section. So more likely, three-dimensional J will work. Also, at the last line, I can land my target. But now, as per customer request, Tvd SS at the TD must be changed. And be very aware of which TVD you're working with, because here in this column, TVD doesn't change its name if you're working reference to Mince level or to rig floor. So just to confirm that we are dealing with Mince level, you have to go here and to change this rig reference to field reference. So now we are dealing with TVD SS. And we know that new requested TVD SS is 2639. So now my target was edited. So the only thing I'm missing is dogleg severity. So the planned dogleg severity for the lateral was 1 degree, and this is exactly what customer require at this point. So now the profile was calculated. I can just save it to database. And again, if it is required, so risk assessment can take place, and all collision avoidance report can be generated and checked as well. But in this case right now, I can just quickly run 3D collision avoidance policy. And as far as this correction is not that massive, so I don't expect any problems with drilling ahead. And again, I have plenty of available space. The only thing that's failing is my actual well pass. So all tabs in this interactive analysis tool showing me good separation, right? And on three-dimensional viewer, you can see that I have these green cylinders, and I'm not crossing these green cylinders with my projection. So it's safe to resume drilling. Now in my actual well pass, I can just switch to active projection. I have to update it from database and just continue drilling. Should simple plot of actual well pass be required, it can be easily created from actual well pass using just one-page drilling plot option here. It can be saved to a working folder and later updated using this refresh data when new survey will be posted. If advanced settings are required, for example, offsets need to be plotted as well, so plots in output launcher must be used. So here you can specify which data to display. Do you want to have offsets on your plot? Do you want to have your positional uncertainty ellipsoid displayed? So now it all depends on what is required to be shown on the plot. But don't just forget that you have to specify it both for the cross section and for the well pass map. So say we are going to create a plot just with offsets both for cross section and for well pass map. So I just want to plot my offset pass and check this box here as well. And now I just want to calculate the plot. Should plan against fact plot be required, DD must create a different offset list for planned well pass containing only actual well pass and name it something sensible. So you can just open existing offset well list. You can remove all the offsets. You can now add your actual well pass as an offset. And now just to save it as something sensible, like plan versus fact, for example. Again, save and exit. So now if I go to my plan, click on output options, go to plots. So as you can see right now, I'm using these offset wells. So basically this is only to produce a plot, plan versus fact. So now again, don't forget to specify that you would like to have your offsets included both on cross section and on a well pass map. Now some editing can take place if required. So this is my actual well pass and this is my planned well pass. So now again, this plot can be saved to your working directory, and as soon as new survey pops up or as frequently as required, it can be refreshed with new surveys, and you don't need to create a new drilling plot from scratch. If you want to show your progress in a lateral section more closely, so you may need to change your ranging scale. Let's say we'll do it with a cross-section view right now. So what I'm going to do, I just highlight the box. I go to box and range and scale. You can use hotkey as well. And here, with my plot box scale fixed and maintaining plot box aspect, I will now cut the area of my interest using Shift and right button of a mouse. And I will do the same with the map view. So now I would just like to enlarge this picture to show the actual progress of my actual well pass against my plan. So what I'm going to do with this box highlighted, I will just uncheck box scale fixed and check maintain plot box aspect. And again, with Shift and right click, I will just drag the box to make it to the size I want it to appear on the plot. and this one as well. Sorry, I haven't changed the setting for scale and aspect, so I can easily undo. And now with this box highlighted, again with box range and scale, I change the position of these ticked boxes, and with shift and right click I will just drag to the desired size. Now I can play with these sizes again, just to make these boxes fit the screen. Okay, so maybe this setup doesn't look that bad and can be submitted to customer. But again, it depends on what exactly you need and you want to show in the plot. Halas!